Hey guys, welcome to this week's Inner Circle video. And I'm just going to be answering a question on what's better for fat loss, cardio, or weights. I'm going to try and keep this relatively brief. There is a little bit of context that I have to cover with this question, but I don't want to hold you guys up for too long. So let's get into it. So I'm going to assume that your goal is to have as much lean body mass as possible while being relatively lean. Cool? Cool. So fat loss comes down to an energy or a calorie deficit. From a purely weight loss standpoint, it doesn't really matter how you create that deficit, whether you eat less calories, work out more, or do more cardio. In saying that, from an optimal body composition standpoint, there are a few things that we need to consider. First of all, I would say that weight training should be considered standard with fat loss protocols. Is it going to contribute to the energy output and therefore your deficit? Yes. But it should be a given, not something that we're kind of adding in to increase fat burning, if that makes sense. Secondly, we also need to know that there's only a certain amount of weight training that we can do in a week before we start to impede upon recovery. And in a deficit, that's likely going to be even lower. So weights, they're good for building and maintaining our muscle, and that's what we should be focusing on in the gym, but they're rather limited from a calorie burning capacity, if that makes sense. At the same time, cardio probably shouldn't be your primary deficit creator either. So what I mean by that is that there's a few things that we need to consider. There's 5 things actually, off the top of my head. One, it's actually less accurate to measure than if we were to just kind of reduce our calorie intake. And this is shown in kind of studies where looking at kind of why we don't see the amount of weight loss that we'd expect from doing a certain amount of exercise. And it just never tends to add up to what we would expect compared to, say, calories, which are a little bit better, or when we're trying to create a deficit through reducing food intake. Number 2, it depreciates over time. So what I mean by that is that let's say you're doing 500 calories of cardio on the cross trainer and from week 1. We're doing that every week. By the time we get to say like week 4 or week 5, we're actually probably burning less calories than we were in week 1 because we've become more efficient at that movement. We've become fitter. We're not burning as much energy to do that movement. So it's depreciating over time. Number 3, it's low return on investment. So what I mean by that is that it's actually quite a lot of effort to say expend 500 calories a day rather than kind of, eating less. And anyone who knows who's gone and kind of smashed themselves doing cardio to burn an extra 300 calories, and then that night maybe they've eaten an ice cream or a donut, and then that calorie deficit is gone. How much easier would it have been to kind of spend 10 seconds and not eat that donut than spending an hour killing yourself on the kind of cardio equipment? That's not to say that if you really want the kind of donut or anything like that, you can't, I guess, do that. But I'm just saying it's easier to eat a little bit less typically, depending on the individual. Number 4, at high volumes of cardio, we're actually risking lean body mass loss as well. So that's known as the interference effect, where basically the further kind of cardiovascular adaptations that we push, so the more cardio we do, is going to impact on our strength and muscle building capacity as well. And when we're in a deficit, that potentially means that we're risking increased lean body mass loss. And finally, number 5, it also kind of potentially impedes recovery from the gym. Now, this isn't something that you probably have to worry about too much until your cardio really starts to get up there. But, for a lot of people, if they're only doing weights a couple of times a week, but then they're spending hours doing cardio, and their focus is on the gym, then it could be impeding recovery from the gym, which, in my opinion, if you have serious body composition goals, should be the ideal scenario. So I guess that pretty much leaves us with the obvious answer, in that like the best fat burning or way to kind of lose fat is just to create a calorie deficit. That should probably mostly come, or at least initially come, from reducing your calorie intake. If you want to kind of add on a little bit of that in terms of cardio, that's up to you and your personal preferences. For smaller females or people that have low total daily energy expenditure, then we may need to push cardio a little bit higher. But realistically, for the majority of individuals, we should be looking at creating the deficit through diet and then looking at performance and retaining muscle mass when it comes to going in the gym. And cardio is kind of just like this tool in our tool belt that we can include when we need to. Cool. That's it from me this week, guys. Really happy with the way that everyone's going. You've all been really awesome recently. So keep up the good work, and I'll be in contact soon.